wanted to kick it off with you guys. I know a lot of us are going through this at our 9 to 5s, so we could really just share some of our experiences as the country, and then especially corporate America, is having to address systematic racism, racial inequality, racial inequity, and really get everybody's perspectives, experiences, and then thoughts on how to move corporate America forward. And so with that broad subject, I'll just ask, Johnny, Jermaine, whoever wants to kick it off, Jason as well, the three J's, go figure, if you guys want to start it with your perspectives.
Well, I just want to address what Jermaine was saying earlier. I'm not saying don't seize the opportunity to speak to these high levels. I've spoken to them before. I did BIT and Capital One and did other things at HSBC and other places I've worked. I'm just saying be careful with the level of authenticity you think they're looking for and where they're willing to really understand and accept your situation as a Black man in corporate America. I don't know if they're really ready for that. They say that, but I'd like to see some action. And I think it's very important on how you tailor your message. I want to be kumbaya too, but I've been betrayed before.
Johnny, to piggyback off of that, that's the crossroads that I'm at. Because the brand that I've cultivated for myself has been one of positivity, speak life into things, and like a bridge builder, right? Similar to yourself, Jermaine and Johnny, I know you guys have done similar things, right? In that kind of the last overview that I gave, I didn't really go too in depth more so about the struggles, but more so about how I've been able to maneuver and overcome those through leveraging my network, right? So all while speaking to some of the issues, I did try to put a positive spin on it. Do you all think that message could be lost? Or how can I frame a call to action without it coming off adversarial? You know what I mean?
What I've been advising people who talk to me, especially someone like my daughter who had a similar situation, she's young and moving forward in her career, her CEO asked her to review her words to the organization about this current time. And what I told my daughter is the same advice I give to everybody who would ask me, just to challenge that person and hold them to the values and ideals that they're speaking to. Say, I hope that, that they're speaking from the heart and that they want to see these values manifest into action. That's how I would take that. And then look for those actions. Not just come and speak at this tour or go on this junket with me, but actually put some programs in place that do make a difference for Black people specifically.
Okay.
Yep. I want to add to that within the general framework of keeping it professional, right, Jason? I'd start out by asking for permission, right? Hey, I came to this meeting, this venue, being vulnerable, sharing my perspective, right, my experience. Are you ready for me to truly do that? Because this may not be something that you're used to. This is something that a lot of the country isn't used to. And so I just want to make sure that you're comfortable with some of these raw, albeit professional feelings and words that I'm going to convey to you today. And if they give you the green light, then go ahead and be your authentic self. Again, always keeping it professional.
Okay.
What I want to add to that, JT, is that you want to be as authentic as you can be, but keep in mind you're trying to maneuver yourself to the corporate ladder as well. So a lot of things that you may say can definitely hinder, although they're not going to come out and say it and show it. But I think because of the group dynamic that we're in, I'm comfortable if I go in a setting, I will speak just like Jermaine can go in a room and he can speak on a high level.
I understand what you're saying, Johnny, and you're saying being cautious about what you say. But if everything that you're saying is grounded in truth and is unchallengeable facts, then I honestly think this is one of those rare opportunities in a career where you get to really be 100% yourself. And Talon, I'm actually going to have to use your approach. I have a panel next week. But on all the other calls, I purposely made sure that I was the first person to speak. And it was specifically for one, I know everyone is hesitant to talk, especially when they open up the floor and says, okay, does anyone want to get the conversation started? I've purposely been stepping up and taking that opportunity because One is to kind of relieve the tension in the room, but two, I'm trying to set the tone because the level of honesty and vulnerability and openness I'm gonna state from that very beginning is what we're gonna use for the rest of the meeting. I mean, it's indirectly taking control of the meeting. I actually had another call today and I purposely did that. And after that, I started realizing that a bunch of people that had their phones muted, they kind of loosened up the reins and kind of leaned in a little bit and got more engaged. But I'm just going to take advantage of it. And honestly, I feel at this point, if what I'm saying isn't being received across everyone, and I'm not saying anything controversial, I'm stating clear facts that everyone knows. If I'm starting to see that that's not consistent across the area, then that's a sign for me that's not where I need to be. It's almost like I'm interviewing again, and I'm trying to see if this is the place that deserves to have me here.
And I truly think, to Jermaine's point, a lot of the organization, and surprisingly for me, a lot of leaders are looking to me implicitly to co-lead at worst, or at best lead us through this, or at least jumpstart the process. And it took me a while before I realized that the eyes were on me. So I agree to Jermaine's point that this is a rare opportunity, number one, to really move forward and break down some of the systemic racism that exists in corporate America, but also to display your leadership skills, right? To what extent are you able to collaborate? To what extent are you able to impact change? And I don't want to dismiss Johnny's point, right? Because history is history. So I do want folks to be cognizant, right? Not to the point that it's a hindrance, but be cognizant of the culture, right? The room specifically, just as you will with any other conversation. But I feel like this time is uniquely different.
Yeah, and that's what I'm saying. I'm saying step with intention and make sure you read the room. That's all I'm saying.
Yo, I like that phrase, step with intention.
Yeah, I just wanted to just speak on what the point that John was making. I think that you have to really step with intention. And unfortunately, right now, they're pointing to you because you're probably the only one there that they really can be resourceful to address this issue. You're a black male in corporate America. So they're coming to you because they know this directly impacts you. So they want to get to the source. That's what we always go to, is the root cause. So we want to get to the source before we start thinking of all these other hypotheses and throwing them out the window. So they're coming to you to gather information. Also, what I said is, just like Johnny said, know the room. I understand that you should move with intention. And I also understand that it's just like anything else within corporate America. It is a test. So it could be a test to say, hey, which line is he on as far as with the issues that we're facing within this organization? Because you got to understand also, why is it coming to this point where everyone's comfortable with having this conversation? History shows us this isn't a new issue. This is something we've been dealing with over a period of time. Now everyone wants to understand why. So you have to gauge the feel in the room on why. Why do you want to understand why? Is what I'm mentioning. And I had a couple friends that are going through and noticing certain things as they're going to certain calls that are addressing these issues, that certain team members aren't logging in, that some leaders aren't necessarily speaking up first. What you'll notice is that some people are thinking through their message thoroughly before speaking, because they know that they may say something in the meeting that may be controversial. So that's the same way you want to step through it as a black male being in corporate America, knowing that no one's going to share your viewpoint. So you have to make sure that when you deliver this message, that it's something that is easy for them to digest, because you have to understand, why you want this information now.
Based off of the feedback, that'll be the way I'll portray it, more so as an opportunity message. Like, hey, here's some opportunities that I've seen. This is the way that as a united front, we can overcome it. This is how, as an individual, I've leveraged my network and like-minded individuals to process this. But now is a great time for me to reach across the table so we can have those discussions and really work in some action plans as to how to make culture changes. So you think that's like the appropriate tone to attack that?
Jason, I would say that's perfect. And it's something that you've been learning through corporate America. It's nothing new. It's what you've been having to do when you walk in the door. You have to manage your perceptions. You've had to play the political game. You got to understand that there's economies of scale that don't necessarily play in your favor, that you're standing out in the room. So you want to make sure, as we've all known in corporate America, once you stand out, you have to make sure you're standing up for the right reason, not the wrong. And that's all based on their perception. So not to saying that you don't show up, your authentic self, but be intentional on which authentic self you showcase, and knowing whether it may line on one side or the other. Laying out your plan of action on how you plan to cope with an environment. And then I would also enlist that these are some of the things that I need support on. And I can't necessarily solve for myself, but these are the things that I would need for leadership for. And I would say always go into that conversation knowing what you're asking, knowing what you need from them before, and be intentional in the conversation. So when you follow up with your leadership, like, I don't mind stepping up to these roles. I'm trying to understand how to advance in this environment. Boom, you may not have a mentor now. This is a good opportunity to leverage someone saying, hey, look, we have opportunities for mentors within our organization. Jason, you stepped up. They know how to solve for whatever you're asking for and be intentional in your delivery, your discussions.
Yep.
Okay.
Hey, DB, I want to jump in there for a second to highlight a couple things you said that resonated with me. The first is more of a rhetorical question for me, but to my leaders, why are you driven to do something about this now? I would like an answer to that question, but I don't need one at this point. I need to see action as conveyed through a couple of us on this call already. The second thing is I've seen a lot of, hey, what are we going to do? How are we going to address this issue? Seemingly not having thought about something or not having some framework to be able to reference it. It seems like we're starting from scratch, at least in my experience. And then the third thing that resonated with me was the fact that we can point to the professional Black community is most definitely talking about this, right? So don't think we're not. And so I want to use those three things to pivot to say, what guiding principles, what solutions or recommendations rather, have we been communicating or thinking about as we're having these conversations?
I think we're at the opportunity right now to actually ask for tangible change, but certain things where I'm just trying to find out what can I ask for that won't be considered more favoring a specific group.
I think they are aware that it's more that they should have done and more that they need to do. And I think a lot of that has been phased into, we've had these conversations where it's been D&I, but even as a minority, you become a smaller group of a minority group. So I think this is a specific time to go at your own ask. If you're going to apply pressure to have an ask for your specific group or you as a specific individual within an organization, this is the time to leverage that. Because believe me, there are conversations where they're now saying, hey, look, we've done it wrong. Is there someone or one way that we can show that we're making an effort or impact to make it right? So they're looking at promotion numbers. They're looking at, this person has been in a role and hasn't advanced in the last 3 years. They're looking at all of these information. This person has been this manager and has been at the same level for 5 years. Why is this so? And this person is showing up well at work. Not saying it's, with every corporation, but it's with these corporations, they're noticing this, and these things are what you need to bring to the forefront at this point, especially on an individual level.
No, but DB, I'm talking more of not the leadership level. I'm talking about a staff level. I have peers where they're asking for tangible actions, like what can I do? Like what can I do now? That's where I'm struggling with it. Where I'm having to reach out to what can I do to help? Like, we know it's wrong and we need to change this, but what can I do personally? That's where I'm like, I don't know what the answer is.
So, Jermaine, I've answered that question for a couple of folks. That's in my teams, in my sort of sphere of influence. And my answer has been, be that advocate, that ally, when I am not in the room, when we are not in the room. What do I need to do when we have a promotion board that's going on tomorrow? Not that there needs to be favoritism, but there needs to be a level playing field. So in that room, when you see that bias, speak to that bias. Don't just not say anything. So it's when we're not around, when we're not in the room, in your heart of hearts that things are not going well, that's when you need to speak up. And they need to come from a place of truth, place of being authentic. I'm not in every room. There are not African Americans, blacks in every conversation, but you need to be able to have that perspective. And in order to have that perspective, you need to talk. You need to educate yourself. You need to come and ask me, ask your friends or other colleagues, hey, these are my questions. This is how I want to show up. How do I show up? If you were in the room, what would you say? What were the questions you would ask? How would you attack that problem? And some of them have found that sort of like, wow, I never thought of doing that kind of thing. So that would be my advice, at least immediate, that they can do, is show up when we're not there.